Hi, good morning, and welcome to another edition of Karmayogi Talks. This time, we are really thrilled to move away from some very from topics of economy, finance, etc., to talk about the two subjects that are the most important for Indians everywhere, which is cricket and movies. And to find one person who understands both of those is, of course, very difficult. But in this case, I'm thrilled to have Venky Mysore who's going to talk about both. Many of you may not have seen him because he's almost always behind the scenes. Venky Mysore is the CEO of the Knight Riders Group, which is the Kolkata Knight Riders, for those who may not know Knight Riders. And they own something like six cricket teams around the world, which I will ask him about. So he is very deeply ingrained in cricket and has been leading them since the beginning. But in addition to that, he's also the CEO of Red Chillies Entertainment. Red Chillies Entertainment, for those of you who may not be familiar, is the group set up by Shah Rukh Khan that produces all of his movies. So, in addition to having to deal with the best cricketers and the most difficult cricketers, Venki also has to deal with the best actors, producers, and of course, those are, as he will describe to you, those are both challenges that he has mastered. I think I was kidding Venki to say that which is more profitable, cricket or movies? And I won't give you his answer, but we will ask him as we go along. Venki is uniquely positioned to do this because for 2 decades he was in the corporate world in financial services. And he's also, as Venki has told me, a very good Mridangam player. Is that right, Venki?
Yeah, well, trained in that when I was a youngster, and I yes kept it up as well, Adil.
So, a man of many, many different talents. And we are hoping that he will help us understand the world of cricket and the world of movies. So, Venki, let me start with cricket. And
Indeed.
can you just tell our listeners what has been the big change in cricket from 20 years ago, from the point of view of a fan, from the point of view of business, and from the point of view of a cricketer?
Well, firstly, Adil, thank you very much for inviting me. It's a great pleasure and an honor to be on this program and be talking with you as well. Like you rightly said, we are in a unique position. When I came back to India to set up my financial services business, I was told that there are only two religions in the country, and they talked about cricket and movies, or Bollywood as they put it, or whatever. So I'm in the middle of those two, and sometimes when I speak about both, I feel like a bit of an evangelist talking about the two religions of India. But let's take the first one, cricket. As you know, historically, cricket has been such a followed sport. It's the second most watched sport in the world today. And in India, the craziness for cricket was always there. But it was always bilateral type of cricket format that existed, which is countries playing each other. There is an international governing body, the International Cricket Council, and every country has their own boards. And so the calendar was drawn up, and India playing, Australia, England playing, New Zealand, etc., etc. But approximately 18 years ago, in fact, exactly 18 years ago, for the first time, the business of cricket was something that came into the vocabulary of cricket. It was never thought of as a business. But when franchise cricket was introduced in the form of IPL, Indian Premier League, then suddenly that changed the whole ecosystem around cricket, because now you had private investors who were invited to come in and own franchises, and BCCI, as the owner of the league, gave out the rights to own and operate franchises. And that just changed the dynamics of how the business around cricket happened, and therefore cricket itself has changed in many different ways. A, because the format itself became a shorter format, which is the T20 format. B, with the investment going in, the investors also saw this as a business and had to run it like a business. That's what sort of attracted professionals like me to come into this business, to say, how do you take this and run it like a proper business? And so we always talk about this as the business of cricket. So I think that's the big change that has happened. It was almost a transformational change. And in the process, what has happened, I believe that not only have we understood and unlocked the potential of cricket as a product, but also cricket in general has dramatically benefited. And I'll just give you one data point and stop, and then we can get into other details that you wish. I've been doing this for 15 years. I completed 15 seasons with KKR this season, and in 15 years we have had 16 players who have come through the KKR system who have gone on to play for India. So the bigger picture here is that Indian cricket has dramatically benefited through this change that has occurred. But in the process, also the cricketers have benefited greatly because of the kind of compensation that they now command. And then it has become a massive business in general. We have 10 teams, and the average valuation of each team is probably somewhere in the range of 800 million to $1 billion today. So that's the kind of value creation that has taken place for it as a business. And this is how it has helped cricket, and it has also attracted a lot of professionals to come in and work.
Venky, how has the experience changed for a fan over the last 20 years?
It's quite dramatic, I would say, Adil, because first and foremost is that the fan experience and each franchise, we operate, and I build the franchise, or at least the thought process with which we built the franchise was on two levers. One is you're building your brand, and two is you're building your fan base. And this applies to any business, frankly, if you think about it from that perspective. The brand is your product and your proposition, or whatever you wish to call it. And then your customers are really your fans. And so the ability to monetize the rights that we have, and the potential to monetize it, is heavily dependent on how we build our fan base. And what you want to do is to really build a very sticky fan base, and which means that you're engaging them very deeply. And more importantly, when it comes to stadium experience, a lot of people watch it on television and follow us on our social media platforms. We have like 40 million followers on the KKR platforms alone. But people who come to the stadium, we play at Eden Gardens. The capacity there is 60,000, and we fill up the stadium game after game. We have sold out games. So when they come there, and the experience that they have, even simple things like the seating and the hospitality that we provide for certain sections of, and the type of food that we deliver, and the overall experience of coming in and out of the stadium, and washrooms. I'm getting into some details here, but these are things that were not really paid too much attention to in the past, because it was a very strong seller's market, and you open the box office and tickets sold. But now you have to make sure that you're running it like a proper business, which is to ensure that your customers are not only happy, but you find ways to delight them. So that has changed the way the fans experience the product, and the kind of enjoyment that they take away from that.
So, Venky, 20 years ago, would anybody or any team have had 40 million fans? Can you talk a little bit about how did you get 40 million fans? That's more than the most countries.
Yeah, it's funny because when you look at cricket as a product, the communication that you have with your followers, I would say, fans would mean that they are absolutely, completely, dedicated to you as a franchise, as a brand. But the kind of platforms that we created, whether it was initially on Facebook, on Instagram, on Twitter, on now Meta, so it's all of these platforms. Basically, a big driver for that is the uniqueness that you create and the curiosity that you create through content. And when we put certain types of content, like we're talking about a few things today, people are always curious about how do you do this and how do you do that. They see an auction, IPL auction, and they say, how do you prepare for this auction? Because there are 1,400 names that show up on an auction register. And then when I explain to them some of the things we do, they're like, wow, we didn't know this is the level of preparation that goes into, and how we leverage technology, for example, to an analytics in selecting players and looking at the kind of team combination that you want and the kind of matchups that come in there, in terms of when you play against a certain opposition, you almost know what type of matchup you want against a certain type of player. All of these things, we use analytics a lot. So when we share snippets of this in the form of packaged content on the platforms, people are very curious and they follow you. Initially, it's just curiosity, but then it becomes loyalty, and that's our goal when you build like that. And it's not only 40 million, but we also have what we call as our dedicated fan club. We've named it Night Club with a K, and for Night Riders. And so there, what happens is you convert this feeder system of people who come in through these platforms into dedicated fan club members. So we know a lot more about them. We know, Adil Zainulbhai is following us, and then we know a lot of information about you, and we understand what your interests are and start communicating with you. So when you consistently do something like this, then there is not only that type of following, but there is that stickiness that happens. And we're now, and also I'll talk a little bit about our global platform that we have created, through which what has happened is that our fan base has also become a substantially global. It's not just Indian fans who are following Night Riders, but we play as LA Night Riders in the US, we play as Trinbago Night Riders in the Caribbean, we play as Abu Dhabi Night Riders in the UAE. And so it is more than Night Rider following that has happened. So there's a subtle shift that has happened, which is also partly accounts for the kind of numbers that I was sharing with you.
And so how, of course, not everyone, but a very large number of people in India follow IPL and the Indian cricket team. But now you've taken this to a global fan base, right? So what portion of your fan base or followers are global, and how has cricket become a global institution over and above Test cricket?
I think a lot of it has to do with the diaspora that is existing around the world, and also the fact that there are many cricket playing countries, and those players from those countries also participate in these leagues, whether it is IPL or whether it is the Caribbean Premier League or whether it is Major League Cricket in the US or whatever. So I think the attraction of their own players that they follow who play in these leagues also draws them to following this. And then suddenly they are like, Night Riders, okay, my own player Jacques Kallis is playing for KKR, and therefore I'm a KKR supporter now, because I'm a Jack Kallis supporter, so I'm a KKR supporter. So I would say today, if we are probably about a 80-20, 80% of our fans are from India, and 20%, which is a big number also relative to this, is from outside of India. And so we kind of pride ourselves in saying, and also, although we are an East-based team like Kolkata, it's not like we have only Kolkata fans. We have a pan-India following, and we have an international following. And that's something through the other initiatives that we have got. We've been in the Caribbean for 10 years. Now we have been in the US for 3 years. We've been in the Middle East for 3 years. So that's on a upward growth path. India is becoming slightly more mature because of the numbers that we have. But it's helping us to expand our fan base in a fairly significant manner.
So Venky, how much of you talked a little bit about managing the club and all of the analytics that you do. What is it? Can you tell us some of the unusual things you have to do to manage the very large number of very important, successful, rich cricketers that you have to manage?
Well, it's always interesting because I tell people that one of the perks of my job in both the verticals that I manage is that I'm in the company of high performers at all times. But I don't think I'll be overstating it by saying that the culture that we have tried to build in the Night Rider platform is one of where we treat everybody equally, we treat everyone alike, and we have consciously, it's part of a bit of a conscious strategy, Adil, to not go after superstars. We believe in hitting superstars, and we have, but we have not gone and sort of bid for superstars or tried to sign them up, etc., because that's always a bit of a challenge in terms of they are slightly, I mean, they are superstars for a reason, and therefore they're also slightly high maintenance and how things work. But what we try to do is to, one, keep everything very professional, put the right people in the right jobs when it comes to coaching and when it comes to the leadership team from a cricket standpoint, and owners and management, which I represent. We try to stay away from trying to interfere in the cricketing aspects of it, which they appreciate. At the same time, the treatment that is meted out, I mean, these are relationships that you build, and we believe in loyalty, and therefore they also know that we've had 3-4 players who've been with us for as long as I've been there in the Night Rider setup. And when they see them, they say, oh wow, I mean, this is the
Is
kind
that
of,
right? So they've been playing for 15 years with you?
14 is one, and then the other one is 13, and there's another player who's been with us for 10 years. So, and they've all done outstandingly well. So therefore what happens is they kind of set a bit of a example also, and when they talk about their experience with the franchise, others are really, they understand, and that's part of the culture that we built. But it's not very complicated from my perspective. We treat everybody alike, whether the junior most player who has come in, who has not even had a chance to play in the 11, because we have a squad of 25, but only 11 can play. So some will not get a chance. But yet the way we sort of handle the dressing room and the way we treat them, everyone is alike as far as we're concerned from that perspective. Their contracts will be different. Obviously, they'll get paid in that sense. But simple things like, when you win the championship, and we won 3 championships and we've gone to the final once, we've made the playoffs 8 times. So every time you achieve these milestones, there are financial incentives that come with it.
Is
But
that right?
what we do as a philosophy is we basically take that number and divide it by everyone equally. So it's not about somebody who has come in and scored 600 runs for us in a season, which is a big number, or taken 25 wickets. It's not like they're getting more money. They get more money through their contracts. But when it comes to incentives and how we incentivize everyone, we say this is a team sport. So that type of culture that we have built allows us to sort of manage some of these things. And if I were to think of something extraordinary that has happened, for example, everybody in our team, everyone travels economy when it comes to
Wow.
taking flights. And there are some teams who I know some of their players will refuse to travel economy. So some of them have to be put in business or whatever, or sent on private planes, as the case may be. But we say basically everything is about, this is a team, and this is the culture is one of everyone is equal. So it kind of, that whole process of osmosis, or call it whatever, that people understand the culture when they come in and they accept it and they like it after having been part of it, because they all feel like, they were all there at one stage as junior cricketers who have grown through the ranks. And now when they realize that everyone is treated on the same footing, then it works. So far so good, Adil, on that front.
No, that's terrific. I was going to ask, has the change in cricket allowed many more players to earn a living? How has that worked? And then if you could also talk about the growth in the women's sport.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think I mean, if I may just interject a little bit, growing up, part of this whole transition of mine from where I was in the corporate world to this is the passion that was there, because I also almost became a professional cricketer. I played university cricket. I was in the Ranji squad for Tamil Nadu and whatnot, and then US came calling and I was gone. But at that time, it was the right call, because nobody just felt like, there were very few who could actually make a living playing cricket. Now what has happened is that there are 10 teams, and each team has a squad of 25. And that means there are 250 players who are contracted to play in IPL. And out of that 250, almost 170 or 175 are Indian players. And so you think about that. And so therefore, each of the teams has their own talent identification and talent development systems. So I have, for example, KKR, we were one of the ones who started it early. We have a KKR Academy that's working. We also have a very elaborate scouting network, meaning that if I were to put it in simple terms, every player in India who plays any form of T20 cricket, we have eyes on that player. We know who this player is, what tournament they're playing, and therefore they get noticed. And then we have all these scouts, and we leverage technology by we've created a scouting app, and in the app uh, they're able to input all the details. The scouts are able to put in all the details about the player, including uploading of videos while they're actually playing games. And then we have a panel of scouts, a panel of coaches that we have who are in a position to evaluate this. And then the ones that are interesting, they bring them into our academy and they see them firsthand. And on the basis of that, we pick players in the auction. And there are many players who have come through the system who even had not even been noticed by the state associations, whereas we identified them. And once they came to us and they started performing, all of a sudden now the state association picks them in the Ranji side or in the other bigger tournaments. So this is one of the ways in which players are getting noticed. And when they come in, even if they start at the base level, they still make 20 lakhs. It's a base price is 20 lakhs. The highest that anyone in our team earned this year was 24 crores for the season. So there's a big jump. And that person who is now a 24 crore player started 20 lakhs 5 years ago with us.
Wow.
That's the progression that's taking place. He's from MP, and we had identified him, and he came in and he did a terrific job. And then suddenly everyone notices, and then the auction dynamics takes over. Women's cricket is another area and another growth area and thing that we're very, very particularly keen on. We have a team in the Caribbean, which is a women's team, and there are leagues that have come in dedicated to women's cricket. WPL in India is akin to IPL for women's, and there is a tournament in the UK. There's a tournament in Australia, and in the Caribbean as well. In fact, we were the first ones to sign 2 Indian players for our Caribbean tournament. So they're getting international exposure as well. But I think what you find there when you watch women's cricket and follow it, the skill levels have gone up dramatically. And the way they are, they go about it is that it's quite significant in terms of the entertainment value there, and then the appreciation that you have even as a spectator or as somebody who is following women's cricket, to see the kind of skill levels that are there. And the women are getting paid extremely well for that. It's a 3-week tournament, and the highest paid player I think last year was signed at 3 crores. So there is opportunity and there is potential there. So it is very, very exciting. And if I may just add one more piece for the benefit of the viewers here, is that in 2028, the Olympics is taking place in LA. And we have a team there in LA. We call it LA Knight Riders. But what's significant is that now T20 cricket has become an Olympic sport. So T20 cricket will be played at the Olympics, and they're going to have 6 teams, 6 men's teams and 6 women's teams, who will be participating in the Olympics. And that itself is going to create a huge opportunity and a huge buzz. And all aspiring youngsters, now I have a lot of parents who come to me with their young girls or their young boys saying that, hey, can you take them into your academy and help them we think that there is some talent here, and can we try and figure out how they can improve? And so within reason, we are able to provide those opportunities and work through it. We don't do it on a commercial basis. It's more as a pathway type of a program for this. So, but it's on both fronts, it's very, very exciting, Adil.
But that's terrific in terms of the number of women and the number of players who are actually doing really well and making money doing it. What is it like in terms of you talked a lot about many tools that you are using, this app that you have a database on 1,000 players or whatever.
Yeah.
How do the national cricket boards also, are they as sophisticated? Are they as tech savvy? Are they using AI? Are they using analytics?
I think the national boards have the luxury of having to pick only one team with, say, 15 players. Whereas here we are talking 250 players, 10 teams put together. And so what happens to the national team is that the players of repute and somebody who has the performance is coming through the system and are much more easily noticeable, and who are able to make that grade to play for the country. Whereas I think franchises have to rely on a lot of these tools and techniques for two reasons. One is, the numbers are much larger, so there are 10 teams. And secondly, there is a salary cap for each team. So we have to manage the signing of these players and build squads within a certain pool of money that is established by BCCI to say, this is how much you can spend. And it's a level playing field. So therefore, I can't sort of fight for 2-3 players and pay 24 crores, for example, for 10 of them. It's impossible for me to build that. So I'll have to identify some new talent that is coming through. So therefore, the challenge is a little greater at the franchise level as opposed to the national level.
And what do you do with, everyone is talking today about AI and artificial intelligence being applied to many things. How do you think it's applicable in cricket and in franchises?
I think it's very exciting to kind of anticipate what's going to happen, because partly what we have done, which I was sharing with you, is that the analytics that we use in two ways. For example, when it comes to the auction, we have a full query system and a tool that has been built. We were the first ones to do it. Now, most teams follow this. Is when you have 1,400 players, you can't do homework on 1,400 players. And so you're sort of basically saying, and the coaches decide and say, okay, we want the following metrics to be factored in terms of, what is the strike rate of a player that you want? What is the average score that you want to see? Do you want a top order player? You want a middle order player? You want a lower order player? The type of bowler that you see based on the conditions we're playing. So when you input all of these metrics into a tool and you query it, it comes down with a drop-down menu and say, based on the queries that you put in, these are the players who fit that. Then you know those players and you sort of rank them to a certain extent. That's how we sort of use that tool for selection and auction. Then you have another set of challenges, which comes to game time strategy. So when we play the game, you know which opposition that you're playing against, and you know the type of players who are there on that side. So what we do is we do a lot of these matchups, as we call it, and say that, okay, if we're up against a Rohit Sharma, or we're coming up against a Virat Kohli, or we're coming up against a ABC player, we know the type of resources that we have and who matches up the best against them. So these inputs are given to the captain. So when it comes to game time, he's in a position. Sometimes we send signals from outside also.
Oh,
To say,
right.
here, this is at least as an input. Then the captain has to decide based on his own instincts on the field. But this is something that we already do. Now, I think with AI, this could be in a very real-time, accelerated type of a process that could follow. Because in the auction also, many times, suddenly players' names are pulled out at random from a bag, and we have to react to that. And if you have done the homework, great. If not, you see a lot of people getting very confused at the auction table. Similarly, in a match situation, if you have to very quickly, because teams also try to throw you off by coming in with their different strategies, and you're expecting a certain player to walk in if a wicket falls and somebody else comes in, and you have to react to that. In the long form and test cricket, you have plenty of time, 5 days to react to it. Here, every second is important, and you have penalties for delay of game as well. So you don't want to be delaying those things. So AI could play a very significant role, we feel, in that regard.
Um, I think this was a great overview of cricket, and I thank you so much for helping us understand, in a sense, the business of cricket.
My
Right,
pleasure.
and how it works. I wanted to switch a little bit to your other passion, or
Right.
to your other job, which is movies.
Yes.
And both movies and cricket are a form of very strong soft power for India.
Mm.
right? But movies particularly. And so I wanted to talk to you a little bit about what is happening and how is the business of movies changed over the last 20 years. They said in cricket, it changed completely, right?
Yeah.
Because of not completely, but a lot. And there was a huge transformation. So, what is
Yeah.
the transformation, if any, that has occurred in movies or that you see occurring going forward?
Yeah. So I think at the heart of entertainment and movies in particular is content, and the consumers of content have become extremely discernible. I mean, they've got very discerning tastes, and therefore their demands and their expectations are very, very different right now. And also, what has also happened, the medium through which the content is delivered to the consumer has also changed a lot. It used to be traditionally only theaters and single screen theaters, as we called it, which is standalone theaters, and people went to that. Then it transformed into multiplexes and people going to malls, and the footfall there was used to draw them into theaters as well. And then it eventually got into television, and then now a lot of us use OTT platforms to consume content, not only on the big screen or the television, but on handheld. So now, therefore, the type of content that we are developing has to cater to all of the above. Number one. Number two is that I think basically what has also happened is when the COVID thing hit, suddenly the audience behavior has changed since COVID. I mean, what people used to very readily walk into theaters and watch, the movie of their choice, whichever one it was. Now people are saying, I will go to the theaters, I'll make the effort to go to the theaters, but give me a good reason to go. Don't give me a small movie which I can watch at my comfort, at my home, either on a handheld or on a television, on an OTT platform. I'd rather take that. These are the so-called medium to small budget movies that we all make. Now they're saying, give me the big one, give me the Jawan, give me the Patan, and give me this type of the big films. And it's a bit of a double-edged sword also, because to make the big film, which the audiences would come to theaters for, is a big budget. And it's almost like if it fails, then you're falling flat on your face as well. So the business of films has created opportunities, because earlier theatrical revenue was the only thing that drove the business. Now you have theatrical revenue, you have television revenue, you have OTT revenue, you have music, you have digital, and so you've expanded the revenue streams and revenue opportunities. But at the same time, the emphasis and the importance of creating the right type of content for people to consume has become extremely important.
And is that, have you also seen that movies have expanded from Hindi to other languages and from India around the world?
No doubt. I think now, if you see, some of the biggest films are coming from the South. I mean, it used to be the domain of Bollywood, but South, particularly, Telugu, Tamil, uh, and some of the superb content comes from Malayalam films, Kerala, nice small content, Kannada movies. Now you have regional films. So there's an audience for all of these that are coming in. Plus, what they do is they dub. They dub in different languages. Now, the scale of it, like a Bahubali when it came out, that was a sort of a path breaker. It was a watershed moment, because Bahubali was made in Telugu, and then but they dubbed it in all the languages, and people didn't even expect that to succeed so well in the Hindi belts and whatnot. But it was a massive hit. It was the biggest hit ever when you combine all languages. And therefore, what happens is that most of the big films, at least for sure, like speaking for ourselves and what Red Chillies we do and SRK following type, are all global in nature. So I would say that almost 35 to 40% of our revenue comes from outside of India for our films.
Wow.
Because There's a massive following in the US, in UK, in the Gulf, in the Middle East. We distribute in 160 countries, so it's a proper multinational type of a market for the films, Adil.
And so that's what I was talking about, films as soft power of India,
Yeah.
right? And do Indian films have a audience beyond the diaspora?
Because of the fact that now in OTT platforms, what they do is they do a lot of subtitling, and
I see.
uh, and so, for example, if you look at the reverse of it, Korean movies are some of the most watched on Netflix, and Indian, follow it significantly, and they won an Oscar as well, as you know, and so when they subtitle it, it sort of expands the market from just the diaspora, and in some cases we also dub. Like, for example, Spanish dubs is fairly common because South America and the Spanish speaking countries are big fans of it. You'll be surprised. Germany is massive. We have a pretty good market there in Germany. And
Is that right? Germany? Wow.
Germany, you'll be surprised. And I was talking to our distributors there and saying, why Germany? What is the attraction? They say that, it's the emotion that they see in our films. They don't experience that in their films or the Western films. It's just the emotion that they see, and they love that part of it. And so wherever that market prompts us to dub in the local language, we do it, and that allows it to expand beyond the diaspora, as you put it.
Wow. I would not have thought that Germany would be a market for Indian movies, but as
Absolutely.
you said, you never really know.
Absolutely.
And
Absolutely.
I also wanted to ask you about with films, of course, you're also involved in doing series and other kinds of um, content for
Yes.
OTT and others, right? And how is that changing? Is the mix between movies and series changing? Are there new kinds of content coming up?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I think what has happened is that there are so many filmmakers in India, uh, excellent directors, excellent writers, but they may not have the wherewithal or the backing to actually make a film because of just the economics of the whole thing. But now what is happening, the OTT platforms, Netflix and the Amazons and the Geos of the world, what they do is they commission these series. So there are writers and directors who are storytellers who come up with these ideas and go and pitch it to the OTT platforms. And if they like it, they'll basically commission it, which means that you produce it, we'll fund it. So they're taking the financial risk, and it is allowing a lot of people to showcase their talent on OTT platforms and using that as a route to establish themselves, and then they get a film deal because someone looks at this and say, wow, this is great. It's almost like what I was telling you about cricket, some youngster coming in and playing at a low, but suddenly on this platform they're able to perform. Similarly here, I think it has helped a lot. The series has helped a lot. And if you go to any of the platforms that you generally would follow, you will, and if you just surf through that, you'll see a lot of interesting content that has come through. And the way they are rated also, and the way they prompt you to watch certain types of series allows you to consume that content, which otherwise they would never have been able to reach that type of audience.
I think recently there was a big event in Bombay called Waves, right? Which
Yes,
was World Audio Video Entertainment something,
yeah,
where I think all of you were there and you all talked about the fact that India can become a major player in the global audio video entertainment scene,
no
right?
doubt, no
Can you
doubt.
talk a little bit about what is the upside for India in this field?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, the PM was there, and we were all there, and it was amazing to get the kind of support and backing for this industry. And for the first time, you recognize it as a genuine, as you said, the soft power and as an industry. But basically, what's happening is that the exposure that a lot of these directors, writers, producers are having to international content and international content consumption are bringing a lot of those ideas back into India. Music, for example, is a huge space for Indian cinema. I mean, even in series, you would rarely see music in series with other stuff that you watch. But here, without music, it'll not be
That's
there.
right.
And that itself creates, there are music companies who are creating albums of it, and that is being consumed in a very significant manner. So ultimately, I think the talent and the platforms that are being created through the kind of investment that has gone, and also the big studios also are investing in India. There are indigenous studios that have come up, like ourselves or YRF and people like that, who this is a completely Indian entity, so to say. But there are international and multinational studios who are coming in and doing co-productions with us, and therefore creating the type of content that giving us the opportunity and the resources to be able to create that level of content. So whether it is a series, or whether it is a movie designed only for the OTT platform, or whether it is theatrical type of distribution that happens, music is another piece there. Events is becoming another massive thing.
Mm.
Today, if you see the type of concerts and the musicians who go on concert tours, is it was unprecedented. It was only these big music stars from the West who used to do that. Now we have Indian stars who are coming in and having their own music concert tours, and taking music, and people coming in just for those concerts. So I think it's really caught the imagination. And needless to say, thanks to the digital platforms, social media platforms, there's a huge amount of marketing power that has come in through those platforms in reaching people. And the revolution that handheld devices have also created is allowing people in the nook and corner of the country to consume it in whichever way they desire. So there's a huge groundswell to that, and I think Waves kind of brought it out in a significant manner. So all the bigwigs of all the industry around the world showed up here, and they were all here for that conference. And not just because the PM came, but I think they saw value in all of these things, and coming in and just firsthand seeing and talking to people and understanding what's happening, the networking that took place and all that. So it's only going to go from strength to strength.
Um, Venky, this was terrific talking to you. I know you have a hard stop, so just wanted to ask you one last question.
Sure.
You have, in a sense, a dream job. You are in the two big religions of India, cricket and entertainment. Without being a world-class player in cricket, sorry to say, Venky, I know you were a Ranji Trophy player, but you're not in any of the IPL teams. And as far
True.
as I remember, you don't star in any of your own movies, right? So
No,
with the
that would be a that would be a disaster if that were to happen.
Right. So despite that, you're in the center of two, really fascinating industries. And you also worked in the corporate sector. So I wondered if you had any last comments about, the youngsters who are, as to how they can get into these businesses, or to many of our viewers who are all civil servants.
Yeah.
Any last words for them, that would be great.
Yeah, I think, I mean, if I were to take a slightly different take on that answer, I would say people have asked me, how did you transform from the corporate world to this? How did that come about? But the one of the messages that I give to people that I speak with, and this is a subject that's so interesting for many people that I get invited to speak, and I tell them that it was always that hidden passion, because cricket was a passion for me. And then, so I tell the youngsters in particular, and anyone who sort of can relate to that, is to say that you always have to identify what that passion is, even if you're doing something different. You may be doing completely something different, but what is that passion, and how do you unearth that from inside you, to say that this is something that gives me the maximum amount of enjoyment? And in the process, whether it is cricket or it's entertainment or music or whatever it is, as long as that's in the forefront, somehow there are conversations that get generated around it, and you might somehow end up meeting the right people, and some door might open. And for me, it was a sheer happy accident that this transformation took place. But in other situations, I know when people at least keep that in the forefront. So I always encourage people to say, just think about what it is and do not bury it somewhere deep down to where you don't even think about it daily, but you have to keep it in the forefront. That's one point. I think the second one really is about whatever is being done, whether it is cricket or entertainment or whatever, is to really approach it in a very professional manner. Because today the demands are very different. People are getting extremely well paid, whether in whichever industry that we're talking about, which is true of any industry, frankly. But my experiences with these two. So when you are very professional in the way you go about it, I mean, today, for example, in sports, physical fitness and nutrition, and the physiotherapy stuff that you do, and the skills that you build, all of these things have become extremely professional. Earlier, cricket used to be only a skills game, so you could look not very fit and still be very successful at the international level. Today, that doesn't work. So the people who have to approach it, and the same is true of films. You have to take care of yourself. And some of the superstars that I'm in the company of at times, I see how hard they work behind the scenes in terms of taking care of themselves and their diets and their nutrition and their fitness. And so it is something that has now become a highly professionalized industry, to a point where it needs to be approached as such to get the right breaks and to make a career out of it.
It's terrific, Venky. Thank you so much, and good luck in all your ventures.
Thank you.
And I know that you are now going on to the next league. Now that IPL is almost done in India, you'll go to the Caribbean or the UK or US or somewhere.
Yeah,
So
US next, Caribbean follows, and then after that will be UAE. So it's
that's
it
quite a
just
schedule.
by the
Thank
time
you
you
very
finish,
much. Yeah.
it starts again. So yeah.
Thank you very much for joining us, and good luck in your dream career.
Thank you so much, Adil. I appreciate it, and thanks for having me. And I enjoyed the conversation as well.
Thanks.